Is there any questions from the audience? Just feel free to put your hands up and then we'll see who's the best person that can answer your question. Anything that you think's arisen from this afternoon, something that might be niggling you, you think it still hasn't been touched upon? Andy, Bradford, did you think? Are you okay to sort of speak up?
I'll speak up. There is a frustration in the community, and I'm sure I'm also and others will agree with this. For the last almost 15 years, we've been talking about grooming in our community, about how it's affecting our community. I know up until almost 11 years ago, I was involved in a report which was sent in terms of talking about the effects of grooming. We were involved in meetings in Leeds Police Station 5 years ago, 3 years ago, where we kept talking about grooming and what it was happening. And constantly we were told it's not an issue. Now I'm glad that it has become an issue, but it took Rotherham for it to become an issue. Now, part of that whole grooming issue, you're saying that you are taking it seriously, but there's another issue as well that's also happening, because in that video, what the mother was actually saying was, my daughter is being systematically bullied. Now, we've been saying for the last 15 years, it's not just grooming, but just like in legislation in the UK, we have hate words. That you can't say certain hate words around race, and if you use them hate words around race, that you can be prosecuted. What we said almost 11 years ago in that report was the word Garford should also be now considered a hate word, because that word Garford gets used in playgrounds against Sikh children, Hindu children, Jewish children, of any background, white children, etc., and it's used as a hate word. And you will also know the word Garford has a context in South Africa as well, with the word Kafir. It's the same thing about subhumanizing or dehumanizing a group of people. And therefore, we see that while Rotherham and grooming is now becoming a topic which is talked about, we would like to see that word Garford also being talked about as a hate word. The people in authority, if they want to respond to that.
Discrimination comes in many forms, you're absolutely right. It's about the abuse of power. But can I say that we've been taking this seriously in Bradford since before Rotherham. But Rotherham has brought it all into focus. There is no more important duty for any public official or anybody who works in this city than to take on child sexual exploitation of boys and girls across the city. It will happen in every dimension. I've worked with perpetrators, I've worked with victims, I used to work in probation. I recognise the concern you're raising about how people refer to, there's an element of intolerance that has to be confronted about anybody abusing anybody because of their belief or non-belief. Okay, and that's a linked discussion we need to have, and the Sikh community needs to be part of that dialogue. What I need to say today is this is the biggest meeting I've seen in terms of community response to child sexual exploitation and grooming. I'm extremely impressed by that, but it has to be the start of a lot of other discussions. And perhaps what we need to do after this is make sure that we capture concerns from people like yourself. We need new partners, we need new eyes and ears, we need more people to raise the awareness of this issue. I will accept that this is the beginning of a number of difficult conversations. They're all difficult conversations, but I'm first and foremost a father of 2 daughters. So I hope you can work with us on all of this.
Hi, I think you've been introduced to me as Esther Hobbs. I'm the inspector in the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub and the CSE team, but in another role a number of years ago. I did meet with a number of communities in Bradford, including the Sikh community, and I managed the hate scrutiny panel, and we had a fantastic group of people at that panel scrutinising incidents here in Bradford, and there is an absolute commitment from West Yorkshire Police to stamping out hatred. So please, if you are abused in any way, shape or form, please report it. It will be treated seriously and dealt with.
Should we take any questions?
Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? No?
Sorry?
Sorry?
I have one thought by monitoring the
Do you
meeting.
want, if you don't mind, can you come? Our other mic's not working. You could have kept it back.
I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you.
Myself, I am an education secretary at Punjabi school. And as you know, when it comes to the issues of calm, we're very shy. In the bar side and in the schools, we find it difficult to discuss. Our priests will happily discuss growth, anger, law, and God. But I've been going to my Gurdwara for a very long time, and the issues of calm are rarely brought up. So I just want to know what help we have from your groups and your institutions with calm, or talking about healthy sexuality.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. First of all, I just want to say, thank you and congratulations to everybody that put tonight on, because this is the kind of stuff that is answering your question. This is the dialogue that we actually need. So, and the work that people like Vice here, SAS, Seek Helpline have been doing is addressing that concern, because our community and a lot of communities actually are afraid to talk about these things. And I think from what the play showed even, our young people are afraid to talk to their parents. So I think what's really needed is more compassion throughout, in the home. Like the play again highlighted, that if the parents are talking to the children feel free to talk to their parents, that's one thing. But the Gurdwaras, we're not doing enough as it sits. We need to do a lot more. So it's up to organizations like Basis of Sikhi, like other organizations, to get the word out there. And to be quite honest, we've been going for about 3.5 years now, and even people that come to our kathas 1 time, 2 times, Bhaiji Raj Singh, Bhai Baljeet Singh, a lot of them don't even know about the Basis of Sikhi channel. So what that highlights is, we haven't done a very good job of getting even the basic words out there. I don't think even a lot of our young people know that Bani talks about Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar. They don't know that the Guru has given the medicine. They don't know that this is the disease. If they at least highlight that, this is a problem for everybody, this can be a problem for everybody, and Bani is actually giving the advice, giving the guidance, the Guru is the answer, we haven't got that word out there. We've got the word out a little bit, but 90%, 95% of the people, our young people, still don't know. So we all need to do a lot more. If the Gurdwara committees aren't doing it, if the Granthis aren't doing it, I say that we all start doing it. As a community, we can start somewhere, and as individuals, we can start talking about it more openly. A lot of times, one family is affected by something like this, and they don't want to talk to another family. They want to act like it didn't happen in their home. So we need to start being more open, because the more we discuss it, then the more it's going to say, happened to me, happened to you, is happening to us all, and the more open we are, then we can actually tackle these problems. And Maharaji's Kitbad that we do have SAS, because this is not easy stuff to talk about, and they are at least opening the door. And we can see that this is something that definitely does need to be addressed more appropriately.
Just to your question that you asked, Kaam, Krodh, Kaya ko gale. Isri nu gal denge. From Kaam, everything comes. Jehde cha duje vakar baad de chaunde. Now we've seen Kathavaji after Kathavaji talk about Moh, Lobh, Ahankar and all that, but nobody talks about Kaam. We live in a Western society. It's different from where we've come. I've been to America, Canada, everywhere. Outside is a dating culture. We need to talk about this subject at home level. We need to talk at Gurdwara level, so that our children are forming healthy relationships out there. They understand what a healthy relationship and what a non-healthy relationship is. Now, I'm not going to go into religion so much, but I'm a believer in the Dasam Granth, and there are over 400 Chiliter that talk about this kind of thing, but people are not ready to read it and express it and talk about it. We are moving in the right direction. We do it in camps, we do it in Gurmat classes. We get a good rapport with young people, but where we get a block is with the second generation of parents and obviously the third generation. But hand on heart, it's going in the right direction. We are talking about it.
So I just think something we've learned by doing the play and working with lots of young people is that even if you, and lots of places are trying to do it, and I would include Bradford in that, you can provide all the information that you possibly can. But this thing is so complex and complicated, and if it is happening to someone, it actually turns a person almost completely in on themselves sometimes. And I think we just need to understand just how difficult it is when this thing happens to someone. Because if it starts to happen to a young person, then it starts to happen to the family. Now, we've done some performances with parents in Bradford, and I think this sense of, the very bad news is that we've seen the cases that we've seen, the high-profile cases all over the country. That's the bad news. The good news is that it's forced this issue out into the open. For me, it's like in the 21st century, relationship and sex education, our skills, it is still not compulsory. There is currently a campaign to actually help teach young people. I find that staggering, absolutely staggering. I don't mean teach people about sex at an appropriate age. I mean the things that people have just been saying about understanding what a healthy relationship, what a loving relationship is, because if you learn about those things, you're much better placed to be able to recognise what is an unhealthy relationship, what feels right, what should be normal, what are the parameters of a normal relationship, and actually therefore you're helping young people to understand that the majority of people that they meet in life, adult and young, are not going to try and hurt them or exploit them, but they need to be able to recognise it if somebody is trying to do that. Parents need some help to understand. The technology, the world's changed completely in the last 10 years. Mobile phones. Less than 10 years ago, if somebody with a bad agenda wanted to access a young person, they would have actually had to go physically near that young person. Now, our children, often from 8, 9 years old, and sometimes even younger, have a device in their hand which people can facilitate them on in a whole manner of ways that we don't even properly understand. Yeah. So I think the world's changing, and I think the more that we talk about it, the more, this isn't a faith issue, except it affects everyone. It's a faith issue in the sense that it affects all faith, but this is about young people, keeping young people safe, and the more Bradford just put some funding into, we're going to do a second play about these issues for 10 to 12-year-olds. It will be nothing like the play that you've seen today. It will be very different in tone. It's going to be about friendship and trust. Our children, the young people that are here today, I've got the capacity to understand these things if we do it in an appropriate way. And the more we talk to each other like this, there are people out there that wouldn't expect this community to be having this conversation today. And that's the kind of ignorance that needs to be broken down. It's not because people are deliberately ignorant, they just simply don't understand. So, for me, a brilliant future would be to have this, but to have lots of different people in the room as well, to actually, so that everyone can see that everybody else cares about this too. Sorry, I find it difficult to be brief. Sorry.
Thank you. That moves nicely on to the next question before I take any more. Somebody's asked, what resources have been put in place for the Sikh community around positive parenting, because people assume that Sikhs are automatically the type of community that look out for their own children and other children as well, where actually it's moved a long way from that. Like Facebook we talked about, sometimes other people know what's going on and parents don't know what's going on, so it's the danger is that. So I know Parajit Singh over there does parenting classes and he's done talks with us with Course Corner where we try to educate people. But is there anything else out there, Baji, that parents can sort of go into and feel positive about parenting? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the question is about resources for parents. Yeah. And to be honest, as of yet, it is not where it needs to be. We're just starting to get in the right direction right now. So one thing that we've learned is if you're not 100% ready, get involved anyway. 80% now is worth more than when you're 100% ready later. So there's a lot of education, a lot of knowledge out there in our community as it is. So we can't just have one Baji in one area doing it. God bless him, he's doing it. But we need to all get involved. Like this gentleman said, it's not affecting one community, it's affecting many, many communities. So we need to all step up, start creating groups, organisations like ours, other organisations, we need to start creating resources. And that's what we're trying to do to help support, guide, and add value. But this fight, this battle, is going to be won on the home, at the home level. Is going to be won by making relationships stronger. So we need to provide more resources and first recognise that we're not there right now. Our leaders, they're ready to become leaders, but they're not always ready to lead. So we need to start recognising who's running our institutions and actually what they're doing. If they've addressed 5 concerns of the community, real concerns, then let's get them re-elected. If they've just done the same old thing that has been happening for 20, 30 years, then we need to say, hey, who is running our Gurdwaras, who's running our committees, who's running our organisations? And we need to support those that are actually doing something real, that are creating real results. And another thing is this problem is not going to be solved by old thinking. We've got a new generation. Let the young people come forward. They know the problem better than anybody. So maybe the solutions can come from the front lines. The young people like Horse Corner, they can come out with solutions, and we need to support them.
In addition to what you just heard, the local authority and a number of charitable organisations or voluntary sector organisations do specifically offer both parenting classes, which are more general, but also work with parents who have concern that the children might be at risk of being sexually exploited, and of course when it's known that a child has been sexually exploited. There's a particular organisation called Parents Against Child Exploitation, which is a national body but is based in Leeds. We work very closely with that organisation. And Bernardo's, which is an organisation many of you I'm sure have heard of, also delivers, again with funding provided by the authority, well, it's developing a specific parenting programme. It's been trialled with around about 30 parents and carers in the districts to develop a toolkit which can then be delivered to a larger number of parents and to get the feedback from those parents and their young people as to what difference that made or how it could be improved. And when that's ready, that will be available for any organisation that works in the Bradford district, a faith group, a non-faith group, that wants to use that tool with parents. So my colleagues at Bernardo's will be able to tell you when it's ready and from the University of Bradford, but when it is, we will develop it as a professional toolkit and it will be available. And if that's of value to an organisation like SAS or another Sikh organisation that wishes to support parents, then please use it.
Is there another question from the audience?
Yeah, I'll take one more and then I've got to ask this one unless it's, if you write it down.
We have this opportunity to talk about a very difficult topic. There's a couple of points I want to make, which I'm not entirely sure how to phrase. So, again, I ask for his help. When we heard about Rotherham, when we heard about Rochdale and other places, in my heart, it was only a matter of time that we heard about Bradford. Because even in Rochdale, even in Rotherham and places further away, like Oxford, we heard a link to Bradford every time. There's been a link to Bradford every time. And it was just a matter of time that we would hear something about in Bradford. So this is very difficult because it disturbs me to say what I'm going to say. Why is it being covered up in Bradford then? There will be cases in Bradford, and the authorities will know about them. There will be other cases that are still not being discovered. I have a deep concern in Bradford. The political system in Bradford is very skewed to one particular community, right across all the political parties. Okay. I have some other personal evidence that makes me worry about this particular situation. 25 years ago, I would have been about 26 years old, and I had a cousin who was a year or 2 years younger than me, and she had been groomed. And I remember we had no organisation at the time, no SAS, I didn't know where to go. But we went to rescue her, and we got her back, and we got her back into a routine again. But when I think about it, those people, those gangs, were even then operating at a national level. The question is, I want to see more transparency within the institutions in Bradford, in the political system, the board, anything to do with this topic. I'd like Sarojit Singh or somebody like that to be involved in bringing more transparency. That's one point. Second point, with the help of the board, it's a priority in preventing these things. And when parents, just in the play, when parents in that situation of not knowing what to do, they're not trained professionally. We're all good parents to a level. We're all bad parents to a level. Yeah? And they need expert help. And my request is, that with the help of the board, we could have 3 females, 2 lads, trained with the counselling skills that have Gurbani at the heart. Because you know in this room that with Gurbani, all the solutions, Faisal referred to it, all the solutions to most of the world problems, all the world problems are within Gurbani. But if they have the technical skills of counselling as well as Gurbani, then we've got a winning formula. Thank you.
I know you said quite a number of things, but the one thing that I shouldn't be asking the question or whatever, but the word prevent. Now we have council here, we have police. Up and down the country, not in one city, but in every city, every police force, every council at government level, we're asking one thing, and that is that it shouldn't take the person who is being groomed to name the person, because that person thinks he or she is in love with the perpetrator. She will never come forward. What we're asking the police and the council is to work this as the same level as terrorism. A terrorist never goes up and says, I'm going to blow you, and then they pick him up. They have info and they pick it up before the event happens. We need your council, we need the government, we need the police to act on information given by charities, given by third parties, given by carers, given by parents, and when that goes to the police or the authorities, it should be at that level and not down there. It should be on the same level as terrorism, because that is what I say this is. It's terrorizing our young people, so that is the only way we're going to prevent this from happening.
Thank you. First of all, I absolutely am impressed by your passion, Wayne, and under the people in the room. Because I don't raise my voice, or because I don't speak as eloquently, please don't think that I and lots of the other people, well, all the other people in my experience, who are now working to try to address child sexual exploitation. But I have to say, child sexual exploitation is extremely important, but it's only one of a myriad of forms of abuse of children that we have responsibility for dealing with. But everybody I know that works in this is passionate. They might show their passion by the long hours they work, by the way that they are concerned about particular children, and of course the joy they have when particular children who they have seen in the most awful circumstances beginning to get their lives back on track again. And first and foremost, that does come from having a relationship with people, their family if possible. If that's not possible, other people that have a relationship with them. Professionals help, but actually the key, the solution rarely sits in the hands of professionals. Sometimes professionals are just able to match people, children, with those people that have the key. So there's a huge amount of passion. And what you said about the approach, that we should not be relying upon a traumatised 13-year-old who has been raped, who has been drugged, who is confused, who is frightened, who fears that her sister may be raped next, who fears that her mother may be raped, who fears the people that may come round with CS gas canisters and baseball bats. And every single thing I have said, I know children have said they are fearful of happening in Bradford. You're absolutely right, and it is, I am honest to say that I have sat and had discussions with people, professional people in 2009, 2010, who said we can't deal with this because the young people choose to act like this. The young people choose to have a relationship. This girl thinks this is her boyfriend. That is completely unacceptable. It should have changed a long time ago, but in Bradford it changed at a leadership level 4 or 5 years ago. Some of the convictions you're hearing about now, and will be hearing about, hopefully, through cases going through court in the coming months, do not result from young people saying it was person X that raped me, and they did it 5 times, and they did it at the following times on the following dates. Because most young people are not able to recall that kind of detail. It comes from the police adopting a different approach in Bradford, and it was the first place in West Yorkshire where that happened. It comes from the police, and this may sound unpleasant, but it comes from the police working with people to get children's garments, to find if there are samples of DNA that can be linked with people that have had sexual contact with them. It comes from the police seizing mobile phones and laptops and computers and analysing internet usage and text messages. That is how now this type of matter is investigated. Sometimes young people do get to the point then when they realise that they're being taken seriously, that people are being arrested, that they do feel able to make statements because they now feel safe. So it's very important to acknowledge things that haven't been done as well as they should have been in the past. I will not defend some of the things that weren't done or were done badly in the Bradford district in the past. But I would ask you to bear in mind, and this isn't an excuse, but whilst that was happening, clerics in Christian denominations, people in madrasa and in other religious organisations, people in the armed forces, people who potentially, we don't know for sure, or certainly some politicians, have been involved in harming children. And the establishment has been involved in not recognising that quickly enough. We've learnt a lot in Bradford. I wish we had learnt it quicker and acted on it quicker. But what I will say is we have learned and acted an awful lot quicker than many places in the country. And I think that that's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for children that are hurt. And there are cases in Bradford, and you will be hearing about Bradford. We will hear headlines that make us ashamed. But that shouldn't cause us to be fearful. That should cause us to be absolutely more determined to deal with this issue. And it is the action of communities that's really going to make a difference. The police and local authority and colleagues in health work very, very hard. You know, we talked about 600 children, I said 130 earlier, it's 183 individuals who are linked with child sexual exploitation matters that the police know about in Bradford. Now, I'm sure that figure would be far lower if there hadn't been information coming from people in the community. So please, you're quite right to challenge agencies to do more, to ask why more hasn't been done in the past. But I really want you to recognise that you will get a response. If you have information about a child, if you're concerned about your own child, you will get a response, and it won't be one that depends on children having to talk about their own trauma directly. On the political leadership, fair challenge, let's deal with it. I've introduced an online CSE assessment tool for all councillors. 2 years ago we put together the money that's provided this play. It's rolling out. additional resources for parents groups working with victims like PACE, but there is no end to this in the short term. We have to see more and more men go to prison for longer and longer. And the tally of prison sentences at the moment is a tough one, but this has not been a Rotherham situation because every counsellor has to take responsibility for all the children that we look after and the money that we need to put in. We've just ensured that all the agencies are now in one place, Henry Mitchell House. The workers from all the different agencies are working together in exactly the way they should, but we have to learn more at every stage. And as it happens, Sarah Champion, one of the MPs who's been leading on this in Rotherham, is coming up to Bradford to look at how we do it. We are trying to show other people how we've made progress, but it is grim. As a parent, as a social worker, as someone who's listened to some of the stories of these victims, but please trust us. Be assured that what you will be reading about in the weeks ahead is the result of hours and hours of dedicated social work and police time. And just think what it is like to be those dedicated workers dealing with this area of work and expertise. But I love what you're saying about the recovery, because for those victims, the road to a life of recovery will need the love and support of the community, and I think that's a fantastic proposal that you're talking about.
Just make a point. You know, I've got a lot of respect for the police. I've got a lot of respect for the government. But the fact is, the truth is, and I feel that our authorities haven't been proactive enough. When we see things that break in the news and that make headlines, the authorities are reactive. They're not proactive. They need to be investigating these things beforehand and catching it before those criminals even get, this is my opinion, from what I truly feel. They need to be catching these criminals before they get anywhere near our children. So they're not doing the job. However, I'm very thankful that they are trying to do the job. You're catching up, you're doing what you can, and we respect you. I respect you for that. You're here, you're doing what you can. The second point I'd like to make is, we are the Khalsa Panth. We are asleep at the wheel too. We should be the people that others look to for guidance and for help. We have to not point the finger at them, because when there's three more pointing back at us. So the one thing that we can always do is take responsibility for ourselves. One real thing that we can all do tonight, we have to remember that the Sanghat holds the power. I've seen for too long now, the Sanghat has forgot that we are in charge, that we are in power. The Sanghat is asleep. Once we start taking back the power, then the ones that are in charge, the leaders, will start to shake too. They'll think, you know what, these people are waking up. So one thing that we definitely need to do, we can all contact, you know, anytime there's something going on in the world today, everybody loves to start a petition. You got an online petition for this, you got an online petition for that, and you know what? I don't see these petitions ever actually doing anything. Even if you get 100,000 signatures, I'm not sure what actually happens with those 100,000 signatures, apart from we feel pretty good that we've got the signatures. But you know what you could do? You could start contacting your local Gurdwaras and asking them why they don't have a drugs counsellor, why they don't have a female counsellor, so some of these young girls can call them up and talk to them in confidence. You've got Sikh Helpline, you've got SAS, they're doing a great job. But you need to have every single Gurdwara. We have millions of pounds in this fund. We live in England, we've got enough money to go around. Every time you go to a Gurdwara, they're building a brand new building, they've got money for X, Y, and Z whenever they need it. Why can't we have an appeal for counsellors that our sisters, our brothers, who, if they can't go talk to the people at home, to their family members, maybe they can come talk to somebody confidential at the Gurdwara. Trained people, people that actually know what they're doing. If we don't have trained people, let's get the money together as a Panth and go train people. Let's get SAS out to every Gurdwara and have them talk to them. Another thing that we've forgotten is we used to be the people that people used to turn to when their daughters were in trouble. We have to remember, as a Khalsa, we are the leaders. We can't keep pointing the fingers and depend on others to take care of us. We've got to take care of our own. One final point I'd like to raise is very important, that we can't keep waiting until it hits home when it affects the Sikh community to start caring about this issue. Before this hit the Sikhs, I didn't hear any Sikhs talking about it. A lot of hard work has been done along the way, respectfully so. But if it's hurting the white community, any other community, those are our brothers and sisters too. So before it hits home, we need to start stepping up and helping other people, and then they're going to start thinking, actually, you know what, the Sikhs are alright. The Sikhs don't only care about themselves, they care about everybody. We keep talking about Khalistan, we keep talking about the problems in Punjab, but the truth is, there's problems and gross violations all around the world. We need to start caring about everybody and stepping up and fighting all injustice. And then everybody else will start caring, and we can start leading this way forward. The police, again I say, they can only do so much. There's cuts made left and right. We as a community and a people, we can take ownership of a situation like this, and then our young people will get excited. They'll say, you know what, I want to be part of the solution. And I think the solution lies within us.
Just adding to your question, before you answer the first one, I've got one that why is it that young people and families like ourselves don't always go to the police first and decide to go to somebody like SAS and different charities and self-harm?
Well, that might fit in with the correction I was hoping to make about the perceived lack of proactivity from the police and partners around this issue. The majority of young people, the vast majority of young people, do not tell us what's happening to them. And so what we do is we have a fantastic partnership across Bradford of teachers, of nurses. Every partner you can imagine knows and understands the signs of child sexual exploitation, and they have a responsibility to refer that young person into the CSE hub where I work. So the vast majority of our work is done proactively across the whole of Bradford. So the second question you're talking about, young people who are not able to come forward, they've got people looking out for them, and people like you today looking out for them who can be aware of the signs and who can raise the concerns to the authorities. And it even goes a step beyond that. I say I don't wait for a green light to go on in somebody's head to refer that young person to me. I have a team of officers and researchers who go through the overnight police intelligence for 3 hours each morning from 7 o'clock onwards, ready for our morning meeting to see if any young person has come to the police's attention that might show that they're a risk of sexual exploitation, such as going missing. So we're really, really trying to be as proactive as we can, because we know that these young people, for lots of reasons, are very unlikely to tell us themselves.
Just something that came through very strongly through the play is that all of the things that people have been talking about the police detecting more and arresting more, about community associations and groups and people in communities. But the biggest single issue that stops people from speaking up, and it came through very strongly in the research, are the feelings of shame, feelings of embarrassment, feeling that nobody will treat them with respect, people won't listen to them, and this thing has been hidden. It's the ugliest, it's one of the ugliest aspects of humanity, and in a way none of us want to see it. None of us want to believe that it's true, and that's been one of the things that's kept it in the darkness. People are filled with so much shame, they don't want to implicate someone. You know, the fact is that young people are much more likely to be abused by someone in their own family than a stranger. Much more. The proportion is much, much higher. People would be shocked. So this sense of bringing this thing out of the darkness, so the police are trying much harder to detect things, the local authority, people have made mistakes, young people weren't taken seriously. What I hear as we take the play around is that seems to be changing, that the atmosphere is changing. We need to educate. I understand we educate them as young as we possibly can. We give young people the skills and the confidence. We try and catch the people that are doing these things. These people are very clever and very devious. Okay? They're not normal people. These are serious criminals. Okay? Young people are not stupid. Young people are not stupid, generally. They might be naive and innocent, but they are open to the intelligence of these people, and this takes months, or sometimes it happens very quickly. So what we can do, all of us, is not tolerate it. If we think something doesn't look right or doesn't feel right, we speak up. We don't keep it in the darkness, because if we bring it out into the light, someone's going to have to deal with it. And that's the new atmosphere, it seems to me. Let's not turn our backs on it anymore. If somebody jumped over your neighbour's garden and started breaking into the garden shed, you ring the police straight away. If you see someone being pulled into a car, if you see something that just doesn't look right, ring the police. If it turns out to be nothing, good. Then it turns out to be nothing. If it turns out to be something, you might have really, really helped someone.
So just conscious of
time at the moment. Randy, do you want to ask one question?
Yeah, so
Last one, sorry. If there's any questions afterwards, do feel free to come down and just we'll be about.
so my question is basically about the title Bradford against Grooming.
Yeah.
And it's a question, well, it's an observation first of all, because the audience, the people who have attended, this doesn't represent Bradford for me. I mean, I would like to know from the organisers themselves, was this put out to Bradford, or was it put out just to...
It was put out to all communities, it went out to all places of worship, it was put on cars, so it was an open event for all communities.
So that's the first. The second thing is, I would like to know from the members of the panel, having obviously participated and also engaged and listened to other members, the panel and the authority that attended, what one thing they will take from today and either do more or make a change in the approach that they're following.
That's a good last question.
It's almost like for us as a community is that we've raised, the awareness has been raised many, many times, but how are you going to move it forward?
That's a lot more people that we're in touch with, that were prepared to work with us and share ideas and develop a response, because the response has to be based in all communities. So take the point about it, not a complete reflection of Bradford. This is a step along the road. You've shown a lead here, and I hope that we can build on that lead. But I think I take away that there is a need to work more closely with the Sikh community organisations that are prepared to work with us. That's a huge opportunity to provide more safeguarding and more support for victims.
Thank you. I'm absolutely overwhelmed by the support that's been shown today to tackle CSE and grooming in Bradford. And I think Councillor Berry is absolutely right that as a community, I think you've taken the lead here and you're showing a really positive example. And I do think it's about all the communities in Bradford standing up and showing a united front. So thank you very much for all your time this afternoon, and I do look forward to working with key members who are tackling this specific issue more closely in the future. And I think I've already extended an invitation to Sam and his colleagues to come and see us at the CSE Hub, because we're very keen for this to be a stepping stone and to take it further forward. So thank you very much.
Yes, no point in repeating what everybody else has already said, but what I would add is I'd like to invite perhaps Morgan Singh or another representative of SAS to also come and visit the CSE Hub in Bradford, because I'd like us to get an arrangement in place so that when you are working with a family and are aware of a young person from the Sikh community in Bradford who's at risk, you know who to contact to get that other professional assistance to add to the assistance that your organisation can give. But also when police officers or social workers become aware of a Sikh child, they know that SAS is available to support that family.
I think, I don't work in Bradford at all, apart from when we come to do the Blake, which is an honour, but I actually think that occasions like this are very powerful. I think when people represent themselves for their own community, no one made you come and sit there for 5 hours this afternoon. That would suggest to me that you're all very interested in these things, and we've taken part in events in other communities that are represented in the same way. But I think the real future is in getting different people together, is in getting the white community to come and sit with the Sikh community, to come and sit with the Muslim community, because then people can listen to each other, because people are actually saying the same things, because in all the things that we've done, people are actually saying this thing is disgusting. Okay, and we can also, by bringing people together, challenge some of the ignorance that exists in some people, in some communities, which is that, you know, there are some people who believe that Sikhs are Muslims. There are some people that believe that all Muslim men think it's okay to have sex with children. There are some people that believe what the far right say. There are people making capital out of this situation, and people are not being given the chance to speak to and to listen to other people. And I think if they were given the chance to do that, they'd be very reassured by what they heard from other people, because I've yet to meet someone that thinks that any of this is a good idea. So I think this is very powerful in itself. I think the future for me, education for everyone, bring different communities together, let different people listen to each other. It's very powerful when people actually speak up, like you have today from the heart. It's very powerful, and it does change things, which is really important.
I think one thing that we, as Basin of Sikhi, we were talking about this, and we haven't scratched the surface with these kind of topics. We haven't even properly begun to work on these topics. We have to do a lot more ourselves. One thing that we need to do is let our young people, remind them, let them experience how beautiful our history is, how rich our history is with strong women. These young people, these young sisters, our daughters, need positive role models. And we need the Mai Pagos, we need the Mata Kiwis, we have so many people that are there, so we need to start retelling them who they are. Another thing is, we need to start doing proactive propaganda and making the Sikh history a more attractive thing, letting them know what the value is. When you have a bibi, when you've got a daughter, when you've got a sister in a bana, she has a daftar on, when she starts keeping her hair, her gesh, a lot of these criminals, a lot of these pedophiles, a lot of these groomers will leave them alone. They would, you know. Some maybe. I would say this. I was talking to my wife on the way over here, and she said when she was researching Sikhi, she wasn't born into a Sikh family, and when she was researching Sikhi, she was so inspired by Sikh women and by the Sikh Sarup. And if we get the message out of what Sikhi really is, and grow the Sikhi inside our communities, grow the Sikhi inside our families, and provide resources, and work together, because organizations like SAS, I think they've been fighting this battle on their own for far too long. We need to start supporting each other and start talking with one voice as one month.
Just from what Bali was saying, and the SAS primarily started work just with Sikh families. But last year in a year and a half, we did 30 other mandars to get that other community to start thinking. We did Buddhist temples, we did churches. We haven't done any mosques because they keep cancelling us. This is where Bradford needs to go back, and maybe these kind of programs need to be there. Why are they rejecting this? Why is there not a same dialogue happening within that community? And it needs for us, without dialogue, without sitting on the table, we're not going to get anything resolved. But my last message to everyone is be aware, be prepared, and stay safe.